doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I know. She can push it here. I'll give you a minute. All right, so it's 6:01. We're going to call the meeting to order. We will start with Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment in silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Lobaczynski, roll call, please.
Mrs. Smith Gomez?
Here. Mr. Kuba?
Here.
Mrs. Ballard? Present. Mr. Kroll? Mr. Garcia?
Here, please note Mr. Kroll notified that he's running late and is in traffic. He should be getting here soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, public participation at board meetings. None listed. That'll take us to the minutes. Entertain a
Motion to
motion.
approve the minutes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kuba.
Support.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Correspondence.
None at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you. Superintendent's report then.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, we're going to start next month back with either the school reports or we're going to do some department reports.
Great.
So we'll get that scheduled back again. We try to keep those at 5 to 10 minutes, but we liked doing those last year. We're going to do those again. Off to a really good start to the school year. Pretty much all staff members are in place other than a couple of special needs positions. And we're subbing in for those, so we're trying to get those covered. So we feel really comfortable where we're at from a staffing standpoint. We've, off to a good start. It's been a smooth start, knock on wood. One of the smoothest since I've been here. So we're really pleased with the kids. Very pleased with some of the starts to our athletic teams. We've got some athletic teams that are doing fantastic, but I just want to shine a spotlight on one specific group today. Girls soccer, I just read this morning, they're ranked 17th in the state, I think now. Not just like the Northwest Times poll, but in the entire state of Indiana. They've only lost one time, and that was to Hanover, who's ranked like 10th in the state. So they are really on a roll, doing a nice job. I know a couple years ago they had a tough year and some growing pains, and they stuck with it and have just gotten better and better. And those girls are doing great. So I'll just mention them specifically because of their start. But we've had some other, Jalen Strumeyer, girls cross. We've had some other really good sports too. But I wanted to mention soccer because we're not often ranked in the top 20 in the state. So that's fantastic. We're excited about that. I'll be brief tonight, so, yeah.
Very good. And now take us to the public hearing for the 2025 annual budget CPF plan and bus replacement plan.
Thank you. Public hearing on the 2025 budget, the 2025 through 2027 capital projects plan, the 2025 through 29 bus replacement plan, were all advertised on the DLGF's website called Gateway, and they were also posted on the district website. A public work session was held on August 27th, at which time the administration presented a review of the proposed budget, the capital projects, and the bus replacement plan. A copy of the advertised budget is available at the front table here for anyone who would like a copy. The 2025 budget includes Education Fund, $23,955, $522. Operations Fund, $8,631,026. And Debt Service Fund, $8,499,615. The total budget is advertised for $41,086,163. This is a 1.7% increase in the overall budget versus last year's budget. The budget and the capital projects and bus plan will be adopted at 6 p.m. on October 15, 2024, at our next board meeting. I request that the public hearing for the budget, CPF plan, and the bus replacement plan be opened, and those patrons who wish to address these items be invited to do so at this time. After such comments are concluded, the hearing can be closed.
Thank you very much. And at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing for the 2025 budget, capital projects plan, and bus replacement plan. If anyone has any comments, please come up to the lectern, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Rick Fulbert, 9221 Parkway Drive. I picked up the copy of the 3 pages that are over there when we sign in, and it would be very helpful. I have gone out of my way, as I always do, or try to do, to get the 96 pages that was available to all the board members on the exec meeting that took place with regard to the study session. And it would be helpful if these things were known to more people than just a person like myself. I'm referring now, it's hard to give a page number because these pages often do not have page numbers. So I'm going to have to refer to a title heading. So it's about the 5th, 6th, or 8th page down. It's called Career Test Ed Grant. That is at the top. That's not what I want to talk about. I'm going into the middle of that page. It has a little box on it, and it says ADM. It says we have lost over 400 students since 2010, 2011, and narrowly failed our referendum. This is not trying to be picky. I am not trying to be picky. It speaks about our referendum. That referendum was voted on by every member of this community who voted on that election day. Our is not necessarily the school board being our. Our is this community. This community decides whether that referendum passes or doesn't pass. And it's really kind of a sore point with me, and I think and others, that when we vote on these things, it's not just the school board referendum. It's our referendum as property owners and as voters in this community. By the way, the school board, quote unquote, your side, was defeated in a very close race, 52 to 48. But when we speak about the word our, it's our. It's our. Us, the community called Highland, Indiana. It says in the next sentence, as a result, the board opened up enrollment to out-of-district students. We had 138 students successfully complete the enrollment process. I am confused. I have dealt with Dr. Erlach over, and over again. It took a long time. It took many numbers. It's not his fault. I think it was established beyond any reasonable doubt. It was 133 students that were admitted to our schools for the school year 23-24. It is my understanding, having spoken to him on many occasions, it's 120. And then all kind of numbers start showing up in here, 77.5, 60.5, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm confused. And I'm somebody who's on top of these things way more than 99% of this community. And I would like an explanation, and I don't know if I'm going to get it, with regard to the confusion I have with Dr. Erdelach's numbers and the numbers that are shown in this budget. And I'm sure everybody's done their best job to be honest and upfront. I'm confused. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Not seeing anyone else, we'll close the public hearing on the 2025 budget, capital projects plan, and bus replacement plan. That then takes us to board reports. Ms. Gomez.
Yes, I attended the NISEC meeting on September 11th, 2024. We discussed budget concerns. Many districts in NISEC, I think there are only 2 that don't have open enrollment now. Makes it hard to predict the budget for next year, but it also brings in students that we want in NISEC, and also with that we get some funding for all of that as well, so we talked about that quite a bit. More services are needed year after year, something I'm sure everyone is familiar with, especially our teachers. In 5 years, NISEC has had an increase in speech students by 598, which is quite an increase. So think about that when you're thinking about budgeting. Staffing, I know Dr. Smith alluded to it, but as of September 23rd, all classrooms are covered with NISEC staff. There are still 21 para positions. Not all of those are in Highland. I think it's very few in Highland. But there are still 21 para positions open, so if you know anyone looking for a position who would be a good fit, please refer them to our NISAC offices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kuba?
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Ballard?
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Thank you. I attended the Highland Griffith Chamber meeting last week. We had a very good conversation. State Representative State Senator Durnall and State Representative Andrade were the presenters. They spoke about how they work across the aisle. The senator is a Republican, the representative is a Democrat, to work on our community in general and the state as a whole. It was really refreshing to see two folks from opposite sides be very, very supportive of each other and cordial. Talked about some of the first responder bills that were done and some bills that were done to make Lake Michigan safer. So it was a nice conversation. It was very, very refreshing to see two colleagues that do work well together. We'll see if Mr. Kroll does make it. I'm sure he's got some reports for his committees. But this time we'll move on to financials. Ms. Adams.
Letter A is the treasurer report. A copy of that report was included in your board packet. I'm requesting approval of the report as presented.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez.
I'll support the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That'll take us to vouchers.
A copy of the final voucher docket was also included in your packet. I recommend that the docket be approved as presented as well.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Kroll.
Excuse me, my card is?
It happens. Nice jacket. We are at the vouchers on the financials.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That'll take us to donations.
Okay, Johnson had 2 donations, both from the PTO. One in the amount of $4,600 for teacher classroom supplies, another for $3,400 for field trips. Southridge had a donation from Deanna Shapiro, Suckers, for a fundraiser for the student council. Warren had 2 donations. They're both from the teacher wish list, and they're both for classroom supplies. One is for the Taylor Voss classroom, and the other is for the Kylie Bagaiski classroom. Middle school had 2 donations. Highland Wrestling Club for wrestling uniforms, and that will go to the middle school wrestling club. Also, a donation from the middle school PTO in the amount of $264 for Lego robotics. The remainder of the donations are for the high school. We have Ethan Nugent. He donated a 3D printer for the high school engineering program. The AMC and Lady Gourmet donated popcorn for a fundraiser for the class of 2027. Munster Church donated $1,235.44 for Fellowship Christian Athletes, and Mission Bible Church donated $177.02, also for Fellowship Christian Athletes. I request your approval to accept those donations.
Thank you.
Motion to approve, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kuba.
I'll support the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Any discussion?
Of course. Looks like the PTOs have been busy. I mean, wow, that's a lot of money raised. I wish I could say something about every single donation as usual. We appreciate every single donation that we get, especially such generous donations. I know our teachers appreciate it. If you haven't been to a teacher's classroom recently, you might want to pop in. They do some amazing things to decorate and highlight the subject that they're teaching. And I mean, I think it means a lot to the kids, you know. It just creates an environment where kids want to go and want to learn and want to be a part of that environment. So donating those classroom supplies is incredibly important. I love the idea of the 3D printer. I don't know if we didn't have one before, but those things are pretty cool. If you ever get a chance to use one, try it out. I'm gonna stop there because I can't go through every single donation, but please make sure we thank them properly for everyone who donated.
Will do.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval to close dormant funds.
Ms. Lily Zekovica, Warren Elementary School Treasurer, is requesting the board's approval to close dormant extracurricular funds and to transfer those cash balances to the Student Activities Fund. The first fund is for robotics in the amount of $1,056.28. And the second is a Pepsi fund, they called it. It's for $46.42, the total of $1,102.70.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve to close the dormant funds as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Gomez, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Snack and beverage bid.
Mrs. Brittany Luster, our food service director, is requesting the board to approve commercial food systems for the smart snack and beverage bid for the 2024-2025 school year. She has previous experience with this vendor and is pleased with their products and services.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the snack and beverage bids as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Special Services Building and Grounds.
A copy of that Buildings and Grounds report was included in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do not have any questions, but I feel like we're missing something unless this document is old.
Not in there?
No, the food procurement, it's not on the agenda.
Oh, did
Are you talking about the snack and beverage bid?
No, I've got, this might not supposed to be in my book. NWIESC cooperative purchase.
Yeah, that goes with the snack and the beverage.
Oh, that's part of it.
That's part of it, yeah, they do the bid for us.
Thank you for clarifying my confusion.
Oh, no
That's that
problem.
service center we're part of, they do the bid.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't know why they had a delay with this
I
one.
know, right? You would think this is, not for sure. All right, we can then move on to curriculum. Dr. Erley.
Thank you. The first one up is the 24-25 Formative Assessment Grant. The state of Indiana provides grants to all public schools and non-publics through the Department of Education to provide formative tests to identify students who require remediation. For this school year, the school town of Highland was awarded $41,952. I just asked the board to approve this grant as submitted.
Thank you.
So approved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr.
Or
Pearl.
so moved.
Second.
Ms. Gomez, we're on a roll here today, guys.
Welcome back, Pat.
I know, right? Any discussion on the formative assessment grant? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. School safety grant.
Next up is the Secured School Safety Grant. It is awarded to the school town of Highland. It's provided through the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. The total received this year is $40,326.14. It is a matching grant from the state of Indiana. It helps to pay for our SRO's salary and benefits. Unfortunately, down a little bit this year due to the overwhelming request for funds through this grant. So hopefully they'll find other ways to help us out in the future. But it was down by about $9,000 from last year. So we had to make up that difference through the match.
Thank you.
Motion to approve, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kuba.
Support.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Any discussion?
So I think, Mr. Erlich, just to confirm, so this is not a dollar for dollar matching grant per se. It's based on it could be truncated based on the overall number of applications for funding.
Yeah.
I believe this to be the same funding that our state legislators were promoting in the news on how much money is being spent on school safety,
Yes.
and it's down for us.
It's significantly.
Scott? Thank you.
Mr. President, can I ask a question, kind of go back a little bit to the formative assessment grant? Just a really quick question. Is that one that we also share with the Christian school or no?
This one is not. This one we use specifically to pay for our NWEA, which is we use for benchmarking in fall, winter, and spring for our kids to just check their progress. It is not shared with nonprofit.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work you guys put into getting those approved, submitted.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Professional leaves, please.
Professional leave requests are submitted for your review and recommended for your approval.
Thank you.
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Any discussion?
Of course, as always, professional, continuing education is important. We are literally the schools on a pylon, so if our educators don't continue to educate themselves, how can they stay fresh for our students, right? So, as always, we appreciate that commitment to their personal and professional development, so thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Wow, we're going through this pretty quick. Personnel, Dr. Smith.
Resignations, just one this evening. Courtney Quigg, resignation, the 7th grade girls basketball at the middle school for the 2024-25 school year effective date. I so recommend.
Motion to approve, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzo.
Support.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Appointments, please.
Yes, these are all for the 24-25 school year effective date. Stacy Steele, appointment as the student council sponsor at Johnston Elementary. Ella Ochoa, appointment as a dependent care aide at Southridge. Maribel Martinez, appointment as a bus driver for the corporation. Jen Plesha, appointment as a K-Kids sponsor at Johnston. Lisa Kelly, appointment as a public relations at Johnston. Courtney Quigg, appointment as the assistant girls varsity basketball coach at the high school. Lauren Bastaic, appointment as the girls wrestling coach at the high school. Cameron Falati, appointment as the girls JV basketball coach at the high school. Kelly Gefford, appointment as the K-Kids sponsor at Merkley. Joshua Vassar, appointment as the JV baseball volunteer at the high school. Donna Scheid, appointment as the 7th grade girls basketball coach at the middle school. And Samantha Abrego, appointment as the head softball coach at the high school. I so recommend.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointments as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard.
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzo. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say it's so nice to see so many names that I recognize. Excuse me. From parents giving back and becoming a part of the school town officially. I think it's just the coolest thing ever. But I really am excited to see Coach Scheid return back to basketball. Kind of stole Miss Quigg from her to the high school, so that's cool. I think all the girls will appreciate, having a coach that they're familiar with. So I'm really looking forward to see what she and Coach Kundich do together this season.
Yeah, it's really great to see a lot of our teachers that do a lot of the ECAs because, obviously instruction during the day is so important to our students, but kids get to see our teachers in a different light when they're doing those ECAs afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's great to have the teachers do it because they know our kids the best.
Exactly.
So that's fantastic. I'm excited. And if you note, I did read our girls wrestling coach.
I saw that.
This is now an Indiana High School Athletic Association sponsored sport. It was always a club, air quotes, club.
Okay.
Now it's actually a real sport in the state of Indiana.
So Highland High School's first girls wrestling coach.
So essentially now I've got to go get certified to wrestle, to referee.
You're gonna wrestle?
No, I misspoke. What other sport can I officiate for, right? I gotta practice one.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That now takes us to comments from the audience. If you'd like to make a comment, you can come on up to the lectern. Please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Rick Farber, 9221 Parkway Drive. My comments earlier came in the part of the meeting that is called a public hearing. It has been my experience, even with this school board, when I have asked questions, there could be a situation I'm not recalling. Anything's possible. To the best of my ability, I've always gotten an answer. Whether I liked the answer, disliked the answer, found it somewhat what I wanted to hear, somewhat what I didn't want to hear. There was no response at all, and let's point out the obvious. At point number, Roman numeral 8, public hearing. I made some observations, I asked a couple questions. I was met with absolutely complete silence, and I was ignored. I'm gonna try this again. On the page that I tried to specify, and again, you guys have got to put page numbers on these things. 96 pages of material, and I've got to make a reference, and all I can do is say, the center of the page is called ADM. There are numbers which show up which said, we had 138 students successfully complete the enrollment process. Dr. Erdelak, he must have got tired of listening to my questions. We finally settled upon what was 133. That's 133. That was a settled number for the school year 23-24, and I read on this sheet of paper 130. Where does the 138 come from when Dr. Erdelak, who's a really dependable guy, and the treasurer is a finance person, a dependable person, why are these numbers in conflict? There's a 138 that's referenced here in the budget, and 133, and that came 3, 4, or 5 separate times. I must have asked him 10 to 15 times. Now, there's got to be a resolution to that. I've asked an honest question, it deserves an honest answer. And then there's all kind of extra numbers, 77.5, 60.5. Can we please have an explanation why these numbers are there? Should I stand here, should I sit down, am I going to get an answer?
You have about a minute left in your comments.
My time's up. I've asked a legitimate question.
Thank you for your
I would
comments.
give you the extra minute to
Thank you.
respond to me.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. If you're done,
So you're not going to respond at all, are you?
you've got a little less than a minute.
No. I gave up my minute. I made that very
You're
clear.
welcome
Ask
to
the
have a
attorney.
seat, sir.
I gave up my minute.
Thank you.
So you're not going to give me a reply?
You've got about 40 seconds left.
No. I gave up my time. Ask the attorney if that's okay.
I mean, it's okay. Ms. Adams, do you have any feedback on the concerns the patron had?
Yeah, I can tell you that the budget process, mind you, I'm building a budget for the year 2025. I'm working on this in July. What I do is I look back at the previous year expenditures, I look back at the previous 6-month expenditures, and I project out what I think is going to happen. Now, our ADM day isn't even till October 1st. I still don't know what's going to happen or how much funding I'm going to get. Budgets are built on your best guess, your best estimate based on the history of the corporation. So, at that time, that was our number.
Thank you.
I don't know what he's talking about, 60 or 70%, and
The only thing I'd like to add, because the 138, Mr. Goldberg would be.
You can have a seat, Mr. Goldberg. You have your time.
The 138, when he says that who completed the registration process, we have this 2-step process, and they have to complete an online portion, and then they have to complete an in-person portion to show your proofs and to show your attendance, show your grades, things like of that nature. So completing the registration process, it doesn't mean you're in our school to the first day of school. And then the first day of school comes in, we may have some people that come in and come out before that count day. So these are numbers, when you say you asked 10 or 15 times, these are the numbers that I have. These are the numbers that I have at that time for people who have completed the registration process. By no means does it say who ends up on count day for our ADM.
Sure. Thank you.
okay, and if I may address this, it's not percent, it's ADM count. The sentence reads, as a net result of the additional 138 students and the loss of the 77.5, we are up by additional 60.5 students. Now, the way that I do estimate my ADM, Mr. Volbert, is I bump kids up a level. I retire the senior class and I add in an estimate for the kindergarten class. If you take that number, that 138, And then the difference in the shifting, because we are graduating more kids than we're bringing in, that's the amount of the net increase.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. I appreciate you doing your best, and Dr. Erdelak on hoping to clarify any of the confusion that the patron had. Anyone else? I thought I saw another hand. Feel free to come on up. You can state your name and address. You've got 3 minutes.
Dawn Early, 9244 Cottage Grove Place.
Thank you.
I'm here with a concern about the email that was sent to the Highland School, middle school parents yesterday. I'm disturbed. Why weren't we notified sooner? Joliet, Illinois, same thing happened over the weekend. They were notified. They went on an e-learning day. My cousin in Rockford, same thing, e-learning day. My son goes here. My son plays football. Those kids he plays football with are like my sons. I work at Merkley Elementary. Those kids that are here in 7th and 8th grade mean the world to me. Why weren't we notified sooner? What's being done about this? Would we rather have 100 kids call in? Or would you rather go to 100 kids' funerals? Please explain to me what you guys are going to do to protect our kids. Please. I want to know.
So I assume we're talking about the issue we had over the weekend?
The social media threat.
Over the weekend?
Mhm.
Yeah, we didn't have people till Monday, and we didn't find out till Monday morning. Couldn't notify Saturday or Sunday because we didn't know till Monday
Okay.
morning when we spoke with a couple police departments.
We
so-
got, as parents, we got a text message throughout the day stating that there was a medical emergency in the hallway. We have Remind.
Oh, this is
We
something
have-
totally different.
I understand that, but now that our kids can't have, and I know it's not a Highland thing, and I know it's not a school town Highland thing, now that our kids can't have our cell phones with them, and I totally get it, okay, I really do, because I am in the buildings, I am, but I'm not here as them, I'm here as a parent. And I've talked to numerous parents, and they feel the same way. I care about my kid, I care about my son's friends, I care about everybody. I can sit here and I can name every student that I worked with my first year here. And they're all in 7th grade right now. And I remember their faces, and when I'm seen in public, I get highs, hugs. What are we doing to protect our kids? What's the process? Because I looked online in the handbook, and I really don't see a process. I know what we do as a staff to keep the kids quiet, and it's really hard. But what are we really doing?
I mean, I
Are
can
they
tell you, I can
safe?
tell you how I feel. I'm not gonna speak for the board, but I can tell you that we had safety dollars in the referendum request that our town decided not to vote for. So I think that the district is doing everything in our power with the resources we have available to keep our kids as safe as possible. Could we be doing more? I think if there were more financial resources, there's maybe other solutions out there.
I mean, is
Unfortunately,
something
we're
we can
at
do?
time, so I would be happy to talk with you after the meeting. But thank you for sharing your concern.
Thank you.
Dr., I mean, I'll just briefly, do
Yeah,
you want to
go
say
ahead.
something, or then I'll jump in, or?
The only thing I do want, because I know it's on a lot of people's mind, staff and parents included, when we're notified, it's police departments that are working together, the FBI is involved because they follow these are computer footprints. The forensics of the computer analysis to be able to track those IP addresses, to go to the houses, to interrogate the parents, to interrogate these. And I know, I mean, we all watch the news, so this isn't just we all look after these kids, and we all think those same sort of thoughts of what if, my God, that would be so we take all these things very seriously too, and we, as do we balance the idea of when it comes to their education, and when should we pull them out, when are we truly, well, we follow the lead of those investigative police on the ground that are doing those interrogations, and then when it comes to what then with the repercussions, we can't advertise them, but it's as extreme as you would hope, judicially and administratively. And we do put in the balance very carefully on whether and when we should keep kids out, whether we should continue business as usual. When you talk about that medical emergency, that's a medical emergency. That's because we got to have the medical team helping the student and or staff member that's in the hallway in that particular area. We need to keep kids away from it, and so they have to stay in their rooms. We have different protocol for different situations, and when it comes to keeping kids at home, we know that there's a whole other domino effect that goes along with that. So we definitely weigh in the balance, and we make those decisions as soon as we can, as effectively as we can, and then we communicate them as carefully as we feel we should in order to be able to make sure that we don't over-alarm, but then we also don't want to be construed as covering. So it's an extreme challenge in this day and age. It used to say, when I was really mad at you, I'd say I hate you. And now it's I'm going to kill you. And we have to stop our kids from saying these things and thinking that that's just an expression of my emotions. We really have to do better with allowing kids to speak their minds, but doing so very carefully, because we have to do it different, because it's a real
I've already
problem.
kind of warned my son, how to use his choice of words.
Yeah, it's extreme. That's the lesson for all of us, for all of us with kids in our care. But yeah.
The only thing I would add to Dr. Erlach's comments are, we take every single, there's no black and white, it's all gray. Every situation is different. And, in some cases, what we found out this weekend, there was someone on TikTok, and we took that very, very serious, but we worked at 2 different police departments and the FBI and found out it really was not credible. We were going to close school and have all the kids miss school for a day, and employees miss work and not get paid for something that wasn't credible. And we knew it wasn't credible. So we weren't going to do that. We weren't going to disrupt the learning. But if we ever thought that there was any credible case whatsoever, we would never let the kids go. My own children went to this school district. I'm friends with a lot of the employees here. I would never put their lives on the line if I thought there was any chance. But we take every situation very, very serious. And thank goodness the police are now starting to work with us and taking some of these kids to jail. The kids that think it's funny that they're going to get online and they're going to talk about shooting a school up and say, I was just joking. It's nice to see they're actually being charged and they're in juvenile courts and being put behind bars, because it's not funny and it's not something to joke around about anymore. And we're not going to tolerate it. And so they'll do their thing and we'll do our thing with expulsions or whatever else we can do. But we back our law officers, and our judges to support us from a criminal standpoint as well, because it's not something you want to play around with in 2024.
Mr. President?
Yes, sure.
Even before we came out here, when we were in closed door, we were talking about safety. So it's a constant. We're not going to always talk about it out here. There's certain things that you just don't want to share, but we're always looking at it. We're watching the news. We're hearing about stuff going on. So we all know. I know a lot of kids. Mr. Kroll probably knows. Just about from every age group. Same thing. Mrs. Bellard, Mr. Garcia, Ms. Gomez. We're always looking at it. But as Mr. Smith said, you got to weigh everything, because if I think about it back before we had e-learning, you have a snow day or you have kids stay at home. Parents are going, what am I going to do? I got to go to school. You're making my kids stay home. So it becomes a whole nother issue, right? It's a big issue. So it's always being weighed, but thanks for coming and explaining, because it's obviously, it's better to talk about it and understand rather than people put on social media, I heard this. Now you at least came out here, get your concerns.
I'm not that type of person.
Right? So you get your stuff addressed, but it helps others and go, okay, we understand why that happened. It wasn't what we read on social media, that it was looked at. Law enforcement, when you get FBI involved, that's your top of the food chain that's looking at it. So it's serious, and there's consequences now. Kids that think it's funny, they're being held to a standard just like an adult, which is not something someone wants to play with. So hopefully people learn and are watching this and go, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. So thank you.
Anyone else with comments? Come on up, state your name and address. You've got 3 minutes.
Jeff Rosignol, 8951 Highland Street. Not to belabor what was just brought up, I mean, that caught me kind of off guard. I have not heard that, but I don't do Facebook either, so. But back in November, Mr. Topper, you talked about filing a lawsuit to go after social media companies. Does this kind of go in line with what this lady was talking about today?
Yes, it
What
does,
happened?
in a sense, and I know that, we did join into that.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's ongoing then?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure, I just wanted to get a little clarification on that. Also, I discussed worldwide trafficking that's going on and the need to inform people. And Mr. Kroll actually asked me to speak on that in November. I attended a training course here in Highland that we brought in a group that is headed by the CEIA. And that was pretty intense training. I've not been back since, I don't think. I do get regular updates from them on the progress that they're doing around the world. As of today, though, the Congress just reported that there are now 325,000 illegal immigrant children that are missing in the last 3 years. And they say that number is likely way low. Real good opportunity for the traffickers to get these kids and to either take them within the country or even out of the country where they're trafficked. One last thing I'd like to leave you with today. There's a plethora of information backed by peer-reviewed papers, all kinds of other documentation that you need. A lot of it is outside of this country because we have a habit of covering things up in the mainstream media. We have been and continue to be lied about the efficacy of products that are put out by pharmaceutical companies. And I just urge everyone to do some real research on that. If you have any other questions you would like to talk to me about it, the folks here can let you know how I can be reached. Thank you. And thank you very much for all the work you do.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please state your name and address, and you've got 3 minutes.
Good evening. Mark Reiser, 233 Illinois Street, Dyer, Indiana. I am a Highland High School teacher and the president of the Highland Classroom Teachers Association. I'm here tonight to address a comment that was made at last month's board meeting. The comment was, I don't believe there's anybody at this table who is comfortable with the idea or on board with the idea of a referendum in 2025. While that is a disappointing thing to me personally and professionally, I want to state first that I understand that's a political decision made for political reasons. Mr. Garcia, at the end of that meeting, you looked straight at me and said, I remain committed to giving the best educational and work experience possible. I want to assure you that I have told my members and I believe myself that you meant that absolutely true. The problem is that the resources that we're talking about moving around pretty much come down to money. So I'm going to give you a couple of numbers here, and I'm going to preface it by saying these are numbers that we have constructed for our own membership rolls. They are not official. They may not even be entirely accurate, but they're probably pretty close. In the last 4 years, the school town of Highland has had 55 teachers who have left this district not to retirement, but to go somewhere else. There are only 160 of us. That's a really big percentage. By our count, the average years of experience for those teachers who left was somewhere between 7 and 10 years. We had to guess at a couple because we weren't sure how long they had been here. If it is 10 years, that's obviously 550 years of experience that we have lost in the last 4 years. Last year, at the beginning of the school year, we did a salary analysis for all of our teachers. We were looking at what we could do as far as bargaining goes, and we discovered that 2/3 of our faculty at that time were under $60,000. $60,000 is Crown Point's starting salary. And what that means to us, what that means to the district and to the kids and to the people who live here, is that we are no longer the New York Yankees of school teachers and school districts. When I started here 29 years ago, we were in the top 5% of the state. We're not in the top 5% of the state anymore. We're not the New York Yankees. We're not the White Sox. We're a minor league club that Crown Point comes in mind for people. And we are losing the middle of our faculty. We're losing people with 10, 15, 20 years of experience to go somewhere else. And those are the leaders that we're gonna have in the school district. Those are our department heads, those are our future assistant principals, those are maybe the people who are gonna be sitting at these tables in the next 10 years. So I really hope that we can do something about those resources, because we really risk losing who we have been. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate those numbers. It's very sobering. Anyone else? All right, not seeing anyone else, we will move on to comments of the School Board of Trustees. Mr. Kroll, I'm going to ask you to have a special report out since you weren't present for the board reports, if you have anything to share for your committee experience. Ms. Gomez, please get us started.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming, especially the two of you talked about school safety. Obviously that is the forefront of my mind. So many of us, as we've said, as Mr. Kuva said, whether we talk about it publicly or not, we think about it all the time. And we've all had kids in the district. Some of us worked in the district. It is nonstop. So never think that we aren't trying to think of better ways to help other than money, because clearly no one is handing that over. Same thing goes for teachers leaving. That, it breaks my heart. I'm not surprised by those numbers. Many of those teachers I knew personally. I wish we could do more. I wish I could think of different ways to entice people to stay here without Indiana handing over money, because clearly I am no good at enticing Indiana to hand over more money for public education. But I will continue to keep working, and I think that is how everyone feels. I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I believe that the board is committed to that. On a lighter note, a couple lighter notes, homecoming is this weekend, right? Have fun at homecoming to all the kids. Girls soccer, we love to see it. We love that they are doing amazing things, and everyone's talking about all that they do. I want to give a special shout out to the PTO groups that donated so much money this time. That is one of the ways. We don't want to rely upon those groups to supplement things for our teachers in classrooms, but we know all of our teachers are being asked to do more with less, as usual, and we are extremely grateful that they have found ways to help, and those are huge chunks of change that they are raising and handing over. So we appreciate them. We appreciate all the people that donate to them, all the people that volunteer for them, and we thank them. And then I want to say, congrats to all of our new coaches, but there's a special place in my heart for our new girls wrestling coach. I'm extremely proud that we have girls wrestling at Highland now, and I think Coach Bastaic has a nice ring to it. So that's what I will close with.
Thanks. Mr. Kuba.
Thank you, Mr. President. First I'll start out as far as Mr. Reiser. Thanks for sharing that information. Obviously, I would love next year to do a referendum, but it's not a election year, so there's a lot of costs and everything associated with it. And next time we do one, which there will be another one, we want it needs to pass. So you gotta weigh everything and see what's the best chance to do something, unfortunately, because you're asking people to raise their taxes. So not too many people want to run out and say, I'm gonna vote. So just a little behind it, just so people know it's a special year. But I appreciate the numbers. I wrote them all down. I knew most of them, but to actually hear it again, it's sombering, like, that sucks, right? For lack of better words, it really sucks, I know where they're going. I've got relatives that live in Crown Point. They're excited when they see our Highland teachers. Wow, you guys got great teachers. Yeah, we know. But with that being said, thanks for sharing that. And obviously, we're going to do what we can with what we have and try, obviously, to address all that at the time. As far as safety, can't see. Oh, there you are. So I've got a niece in the schools. I've got a lot of families I know. My wife's a substitute teacher. She's in 4 out of 6 schools. So we've been married 34 years. So besides students that I dearly care about, believe me, we will call Mr. Smith when stuff's happening always to get what's going on, why, just so we know too, because I care about my wife, so just so you know, she's popping all over, right? So it's not, when it's taken, it's personal for us, there's only so much we're gonna say and do because we're looking out. You know, in the last year, something you might be aware of, probably because you're in our schools, we have a lot, you know, we've armed our door, we know when doors are open. That was something we addressed because stuff we saw that happens. Sometimes you learn, you're hoping it never happens, but when you see stuff, you try to address it. So we're always looking at different ways to do it. Unfortunately, nothing's 100%, but we're always looking at it, so thanks. And hopefully you could share some of the stuff and let people know, hey, you know what, they don't have their heads in the sand, they actually do care about everyone in the school town. Safety. Oh, Mr. Rosenau, thanks for sharing the information, because it's interesting when you say trafficking. I think there was a celebrity either today or yesterday that just got indicted on some stuff. I didn't read everything, I heard it, but it's just pretty close to how, when you hear something like that, right, that is going on. So it is something that needs to be keep looked at, people pay attention, watch when you're out just publicly. If you see kids and something looks wrong, try to find out, you know, because we could actually, see something, say something. So it's, as adults, we gotta make sure we're doing our thing besides having our heads in our phones when we're walking around, make sure. So thank you for sharing and coming to the meeting, and happy to have a girls wrestling coach. I wrestled, I really enjoy wrestling, and it's exciting. It's just a new chapter in Indiana high school athletics, and hope a good, safe homecoming. I think we're playing Lowell, is that correct? So looking forward to that, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the fall. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Ballard.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I realize you could be anywhere else on a Tuesday night, and we always appreciate seeing your smiling faces back at us when we're here, so thank you. I'm going to echo everything that was said before me and try not to regurgitate the same ideas. But I do want to point out, I have a child in the Highland schools, and I could not sit at this desk if I didn't feel like she was safe in those buildings, if I didn't trust our administrators and our teachers and everyone else in the school town of Highland to do everything in their power to protect her and make sure that she was safe while she's here. So it alarms me when I see what happens in other schools across the country. It alarms me even more when I hear things like, you know, kids within the school town of Highland are joking about things of that nature. All of those things are alarming to me. But what sets it apart for me is the trust that I have in these people that sit to my left. And to those of you who work in the schools, I know, like you said, I know the passion that you guys have for these kids. You couldn't do what you do so well if you didn't have the passion. And I appreciate that, and that's the only way I'm able to trust that my child is safe in the school town of Highland School. So I wanted to share that with you, but I also want to thank you for bringing that up, because I think more people need to hear that sincere concern coming from both inside and out, right? Because you said you work at the schools, but you also are a parent. And you're a mom to a whole football team, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of kids in there that you're concerned about. And I think other people need to hear that, because I think, you know, maybe not Mr. Cooper, but there's, you know, people who have, their kids have graduated, and so it may not be as close to home anymore for them. He still has a wife there, so I think it's still close to home for him. But for others, I think they need to hear that and be reminded how much these kids mean to all of us in those buildings. So again, thank you so much for sharing that. I do want to pause a little bit, switching gears and say, Dr. Erlach and Mrs. Adams, you guys really know your stuff. I don't think if somebody asked me questions about a report that I did at work, you know, months ago, I would be able to regurgitate and remember those facts and those numbers and those digits without actually seeing it in front of me. So kudos to you guys for really being on top of it. And I think the reason I bring that up is I think it is a good example of the level of knowledge you both have about what you're doing and the level of transparency. Because you could not be fudging numbers and making stuff up on the fly and still be able to respond with accurate information. So hopefully other people see the hard work that you guys put into. I have to trust you guys with the numbers because, you know, too many commas start to throw me off. You know, that's a lot of budget to manage, and we appreciate the hard work that you do. We appreciate the fact that you can present it to someone like myself, and I can read it and understand it clearly, so I know when I'm approving when I sit here and say, I approve, right? So I appreciate that from you guys.
Thank you.
Another example of what it means to, I'm cold, I don't know if you guys can hear it in my voice is so shaky right now because I'm freezing up here. I should have taken a Pat's jacket. But another example of what it means to, you know, have you ever heard the saying that it takes a village, right? You all know what that means, right? It takes a village to raise a child. Well, just look at the fundraising that we've done with the PTOs and all the donations that consistently come in. That is an example of the school town of Highlands Village. We have so many other people doing everything they can to support these kids in their learning, whether it's in the classroom, on the theater stage, or the, you know, football field. Wherever their learning is taking place, we see people from all areas of the community donating and making sure that these kids have everything they need. So, I mean, I just think we have an incredible village here at the school town of Highland. And the last thing I'm going to share is a shameless plug, because Dr. Smith brought it up first, so I have to say, he talked about the success that the girls soccer team is having. And thank you for sharing. I didn't know they were 7th in the state. For those of you who don't know, my daughter is
like
17th. I'm sorry, 17th in the state. Thank you. I wrote it down. I wrote it right, said it wrong.
I hope they're
But that's
7th eventually.
That's wishful thinking, right? But I didn't know they were 17th in state. I got to find out if my daughter knows. For those of you who don't know, my daughter plays on the soccer team. And that Hanover game that Dr. Smith mentioned, she was incredibly proud because the girl from Hanover that she was charged with defending typically scores 9 to 10 goals in a game. My daughter held her 4 in that game. Now, to give you a frame of reference, last year we lost to Hanover Central 10-0. This year we lost 5-1. So, I mean, when you talk about the growth and the success that that particular team is having, Coach Condes and her staff are doing an incredible job with these young ladies, and it shows on the field. They've been a real pleasure to watch. So there's a varsity game that starts at 7. If you guys want to pop over and see it, it's right across the field. They're playing Lowell too. But I just had to share that with you guys because in that game, my daughter got recognized by Max Preps as the player of the game. So, I mean, and I share that, yes, of course, to brag on my daughter, but also to brag on the team and the coaching staff because, as you mentioned, Mrs. Gomez, we recruit and have some incredible teachers, but also some pretty darn good coaches too. So I'm going to stop there because now I'm talking about as long as Mr. Crow usually does. So thank you guys, but I really just wanted to share tonight what was on my heart. So thank you for listening.
Love the shot. All right, you're up.
That was a
I got nothing to say.
All right, next. Hurry up quick before he changes his mind.
Really quick from just a board summary. Again, my apologies for being late. Traffic's a little bit outside of my hands. So from a redevelopment perspective, not too much craziness going on, but there are some engineering studies going that are studying soil conditions on some proposed projects that the redevelopment commission and the town council has been working on with some contractors around town. Last night they also approved a video production where they're going to create a 5-minute video promoting the town of Highland. They also approved some holiday decorations. I don't know if anybody's seen the last week or so outside the fire department. There's some lighting that is outside the trees. They're red, white, and blue. Obviously, for the holidays, it'll be a different color. Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, that's just some of the things that they're working on. That is it from a redevelopment perspective. From a park board perspective, really just the ongoing projects that they're working on. Primarily now they're working on the pickleball courts in Meadows, and the tennis court in Brentwood are progressing as planned. Other than that, really nothing new to report. There's a meeting coming up for the park board this Thursday. So there's that. Ethan, thank you for all that you've been doing. Our new tech person, Ethan Roberts, released just a short video clip story on social media about one of our Project Lead the Way teachers, Mr. Rodney Glenn, who is a former engineer who came to teach our students about engineering in a blender bike and that they have. That is pretty cool. And they're making these protein shakes and they're making smoothies with kid-powered blenders, which is pretty cool. And I'm waiting for the next segment that's going to discuss the engineering behind that. So that was pretty cool. Hopefully there's another segment coming. I think there is. Maybe I just committed you to something. So many things. I forgot to start my clock to see where I'm at. So I've been on the board for 12 years. I've had 4 kids come through the school. I got 2 left. One's a 7th grader, one's a high schooler. There is nothing that has scared the bejesus out of me more than keeping our kids safe. Nothing. I have voted to spend a whole lot of money to secure our kids. From the airlocks, to the ventilation, to the HVAC system, to keep the rooms as clean and germ-free as possible. So whenever I hear of another shooting, and it's sad, because these shootings have become everyday news anymore. And our kids have lost touch of reality by saying, well, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to do that, without really feeling the ramifications of what those words mean and what they do to people, in the fear that it instills, not just in the classroom, but in a community. I could tell you that I like that you couldn't find our plans because they're not public. And there's a reason they're not public. Because we don't want anybody to know the plans. But they're there. And there's a very small number of people that know the plans, and those are routinely. I can tell you, the one thing that I will tell you is every time there's a school shooting, I talk to that guy right there. And he talks to his staff, and they talk to the police, and they meet. And as details of every school shooting, of every event come forward, they analyze it with our police department. And they make sure that the plans that we have in place are, as best as we can protect them, will protect everybody in our buildings. It goes beyond the students. It goes to his wife. It goes to our teachers. It goes to our staff. It goes to our custodians. We don't want anybody hurt. And I will continue to invest as much money as I possibly can to do that. I've been open. I would love to have more SRO officers. I would absolutely love it. I would love to have one at every school. We'll see what we can do as dollars become available, as funding becomes available. Unfortunately, one of our funding sources appears to be drying up. So that is on me, that is on us, as a board that's on the administration to continue to find the dollars that we can to continue to protect our students. I can tell you the one thing that I've always been encouraged on, and while I've been here, I've had, again, 4 kids come through the school system. So there was a time where we had to lock down our school for a very significant threat that didn't pan out. They thought we were in Texas. Our school was locked down literally in 90 seconds. I'm going to pause there. We locked down our school system in 90 seconds. Nobody was coming in, nobody was coming out, and we had police with rifles and sniper guns protecting our students. And yes, I'm emotional to that because that means a lot. When something happened in Lake Central, they were locked down pretty damn fast. So this is something, these plans across our schools, across our communities, we all take very serious. And we'll continue to take serious. So I can assure you that we're not going to do anything to put my kid, your kids, our teachers, our friends, our spouses in danger. And I appreciate all the work that goes into those. Pivoting. Losing the referendum was not something I was planning on. I supported it. I appreciate that it was going to cost people more money, that it was going to cost me more money, but I thought it was worth spending. I've been abundantly clear to say that I heard what our town said, and I'm going to take those words that they said through the ballot box and see if we could find another way. We've opened our borders. We've had some success. We opened our borders again. We'll see what the success from that is, and we'll see if it's sustainable. When it comes to when we're going to vote again, or if we're going to vote again, it's not a decision that we can make in a vacuum. It's not a decision that we can make lightly. And I do, and I've been very open about this, have a very strong feeling that if we lose the next one, we're never going to pass one. And so in my mind, it's not a political decision. It's a decision as to what I'm being consulted on through the people that we hire, through those that know far better than I, as to whether or not we can pass it. Because I don't want to fall victim again and again and again to not being able to pass one, because at some point we're going to need to. It's inevitable unless the funding formulas change. And I'm not saying that the state underfunds, but I think the formulas are broken. And I know that Dr. Smith and Mr. Garcia are advocates down in Indianapolis to try to change those formulas, and sometimes we're heard better than others on certain things than others are. But I think we'll continue to do what we can to support our teachers as best they can. But I do agree that it really annoys me to see us bring in high-quality candidates, to educate those high-quality candidates, and to lose them in years 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 12, 15 to other school systems, and it's predominantly one. Unfortunately, that one is passing a whole lot of referendums, and they got a lot of money, and they apparently have an open checkbook, and that is aggravating. But I can tell you, as long as I'm here, we're going to try to educate our students as best we can, with as good as a staff that we can, and try to reward that staff with as much as we possibly can. But I agree that we have to find out what that formula is to keep those people in the middle years of their career. And I think that's on, again, our administration. It's on your representation, And it's on us as a board to come up with that solution. So I hope, I hope our open borders works out, and maybe we don't have to have this discussion in the future, but we'll see what that has. I do appreciate all that you do. As teachers, I appreciate all that they're doing for our students, and thankfully we haven't had to cut any of the offerings that we have for our students thus far. But I don't know what the future holds, right? And we'll see what those numbers, how those numbers lie, and we'll see how those costs go, and hopefully inflation becomes curbed, and there's a whole lot of variables out there that come into the discussion. But I can guarantee you that I'm going to do all I can to make that happen. And if and when the time comes, I'll definitely support it. But it's not just us, it's everybody, it's the community. It's all of our teachers, it's all of our staff, it's all of our personnel, and it's those advocates that are sitting in the community to help us tell our story, to help us fight our fight, and to help us to get more votes. Plain and simple. We didn't have a good turnout. We missed the message somehow. We didn't convey how important this vote was. And we lost. So now we got to figure out what the heck we did wrong. And if and when the time is right, do it again. That's it.
Thank you. I think it's important because I've been feeling that there's almost been an us versus them kind of vibe for a little while now. And I think it's important to remind that all 5 of us in these chairs are Highland residents and Highland taxpayers too. The budgets, referendum, all of these things impact us just like they impact every other community member in the town of Highland. And until recently, all 5 of us had kids in the school district or have kids in the school district. So all the decisions being made directly impact our families, whether we're talking about curriculum or we're talking about safety. I don't know that I can say anything more other than we have invested in hardening our schools. My daughter just graduated last year. My son's a junior. I'm worried sick when I see the news flash of something happened. I'm worried sick when I see a message from the school that something happened in the school. Even when it's something that we were able to handle, it still makes me feel sick to my stomach. The other thing that makes me feel sick to my stomach is, God forbid something bad happen in our schools, our entire community is going to look at these 5 people and say, what did you do to keep this from happening? And we tried to get money to make our schools safer, and the community said no. So it is what it is, right? We decided that we cared about this. We were willing to risk our reputations, our mental health, right? Because no matter what we do, we're going to be wrong. So we either ask for more money, and how dare you ask for more money, or something bad happens, and why didn't you do more? And I don't have an answer for that. And I don't have an answer on why we are losing so many teachers, and teachers in the middle that are really great teachers, other than our state funds, half of the state budget is going to K-12 education, and yet year after year after year, we're getting less of that money. Talk to your state rep and your state senator on why that is. I know that we have been doing that. We have been doing that. We'll be doing that next week. So it's frustrating. And I try to keep a level head when I'm in this chair, but I'm really frustrated. And so I heard you. I hear you. I think you know where we stand. I'm pretty confident you know where I stand.
I know you do.
Thank you everyone for sharing your comments. I feel like we're all a little more emotional today because of some of the topics that got brought up. But I also think it's important to remember what quality education and experience and extracurriculars that we've been able to maintain in our district compared to other districts in similar financial situations. And I'm very proud of the passion that our staff has, the passion that our administration has, and more importantly, because I know firsthand other districts do not have the same quality working relationship between the Teachers Association and administration that we have here in Highland. And that's a big reason why we have the success that we have in this district. Is it perfect? No, it's never going to be perfect, but it's pretty darn good. I'm going to switch because I'm getting all riled up now. I think it's amazing that we have one of the country's best high school female wrestlers who's going to be coached by, who's the coach going to be? Someone she knows very, very, very well. I'm excited that we're going to be able to really talk about what Alex is doing and having just the success that she has had. She's just a force. And I know that we will be talking about Alex and the program for at least, what grade is she in, junior?
She's a junior, yeah.
For at least a couple more years, and then we'll be following her in college. I'm concerned about expenses. Thank you for doing all the work you do on budgeting. It's not just us, it's also NYSEC. Hearing all the increases in cost to NYSEC and how they're going through their budgeting process brings all the money concerns up again. And I'm very disappointed to hear that our safety funding went down, given how much the state has publicly talked about how much they're investing in safety in K-12 education. We got some really great stuff going on. Homecoming's going to be fun for our kids. I know that they're all looking forward to it. I know our staff's looking forward to it. I know in the high school, we've got a lot of crazy outfits going on this week. But I just want to say thank you. And I do want to take this opportunity to say thank you to our community members, where we may not always agree, but I do appreciate that we live in a country where we can talk about how we feel about topics. We're allowed to have those conversations, and that there's a place to say those comments. So for everyone here, thank you for coming out today and sharing your concerns, making your comments. And to my fellow colleagues, this is a day today that I'm just feeling especially thankful for sharing this space with you and this time with you. And I thank you all for the work that you've done, because I know our community doesn't see all the time and effort that the four of you put into the work that we do to support them and them. So thank you for that. Thank you, administration. And for my friends in the Highland Classroom Teachers Association, please hear me that I do appreciate you and will continue to do everything I possibly can to make sure that you have the best working environment you can possibly have. All right. We have signing of official documents. Our next regular meeting is October 15th, 2024. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, we got the special. Do we have a special?
I'm sorry, thank you.
The 1st of October?
October 1st at 4:30 p.m. is our next meeting. Then we have our board meeting on October 15th, 2024. Thank you for the clarification. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Thank you, Mr. Kuba. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.